Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast.
And we get the back view of him. And I mean, it's just a mega.
52 yards is a long shot. Magnum PI, what we named him. No idea.
Just a magnum.
Yeah, just a magnum.
Come on, Cam, last year, we said probably 150, mid 150.
Yeah.
Same doe from the morning come out with that 9-pointer.
Here steps out this 90-inch 8-pointer. You're like,
I'm like, okay, well, there's still a buck back there grunting.
Yeah.
And then out steps like another 90-inch 8-pointer. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm like, deer, right there.
Yeah, like
and he's already
yards.
30 yards.
Yeah.
He was literally 5 yards from the base of the tree. Could have been, had a buck down at 1:40 in the afternoon, back there deep on public. 3 does come out pretty early. It was like 245, 24-yard shot, sent the combat veteran, and I tell you what, man, dude, it just smoked. We always get so jacked up when the other person kills. It's just almost like we got it done.
Yeah. And when you killed that doe, I was like, hell yeah, man.
And we come down here to Missouri.
I asked Comey one more time. I'm like, is it a good buck? And he goes, yeah, real good, solid buck. I'm like, all right, boom. And the deer just drops. Sure. Super special to me.
Whitetail Legacy Podcast, bringing you back to the hunt and leaving a legacy. Baller Rut.
Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast. Still coming in your ear holes, hot and heavy.
Ear hole ought to be full by now.
Yeah.
You would think.
It goes in and out the other one, just like mine.
Yeah, probably.
Learning nothing. No content exorbitant at all. We have another podcast guest on, and you're going to learn something from this guy today. So
for sure, yeah.
That definitely might help out. Let's get into the people that make this possible, and we're going to get into the show. Let's start off with the VIP.
Yeah, guys, we talk a lot about a specific broadhead on here, but VIP's portfolio is growing, and if you didn't know, they have a 2-blade, which is called the Veteran Broadhead, and it's available in 100, 125, and also 175 grain. They also have a 4-blade version. It is called the Combat Veteran, which is available in 100, 125, and also 175. The 175 grain broadheads are also lifetime guaranteed through the bodies of them broadheads. So if you're looking to get into some big game slaying, you can check them out at veteranip.com.
You had the VIP shout out.
Yeah, this week's shout out is going to be Harold Warner. Harold served in the military for 24 years. This guy's done it all, dude. He has done it all. He just read off a list, and I was talking to him about, well, Harold, how do I classify what you did, really, because I wanted to, try to be particular. And he said, just tell him I did it all, It's just like them old guys said, oh, I did it all.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, man, I'll just say, well, you did it all, and, that's how these old guys are, and they take a lot of pride in their service. And Harold, we appreciate you doing what you did, and your grandson's listening, and that's how I've got in contact with you. And I'm glad that you've got your grandson Thomas into the outdoors, and we appreciate that. And it's crazy how people find the show, and it's just one of them ways that people find it. And hopefully we have left a legacy with you guys, and it can continue on.
For sure. I'm going to do the Exodus Trail Cam tip of the week. This is something that I am notorious for doing because sometimes it's just there's no way around it. You just got to do that. But one of the tips that we have found this year is by any means necessary, never face your trail camera south. The amount of sun pics that we have gotten this year is ridiculous. It seems like the tree, I'm always wanting to face it like southwest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's always southwest.
I hung one recently, southwest.
Yeah.
I was like,
3 to 6, 3 to 5, you're getting smoked for sure.
Right. I was like,
you know what I mean? So you're going to get 400 pictures from 3 to 5.
Of nothing.
Yeah, of just sun glare. So think about that when you're hanging these cameras. Try not to face them southward facing. That's with all models. I haven't found a model that doesn't get that sun glare. And I don't know. They need to put some like 3 to 5. I need a setting for sunglasses on this sun gun.
Auto shade.
Yeah. Do you have next level deer supplements?
Yeah, guys, I can't reiterate enough, shipping. These guys can ship right to your door. They're also available in select Shields locations across the Midwest. They also have custom pallet options available if you're wanting to get into something kind of diverse for your select area. And if that's your scenario, you can get that available at nextleveldeer.com.
All right, guys, let's get into the show. All right, guys, we got Parker McDonald on from Southern Ground Hunting. Appreciate you coming on a little late tonight. It sounds like this is your normal time, so we appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, this is pretty normal for me. Once the kids go to bed or around that time is usually when we do our podcasts and start our work. So it's no big deal for me at all.
Yeah, we've been listening to your podcast and following your brand, and the last 3 years you've really been knocking out of the park, and that's why we wanted to have you on. When I start seeing a guy, be successful, and maybe he's doing something a little bit different than I am, maybe if I can't even relate to it on the ground that I'm hunting, there's always something that I can pick up, and I know there's something in that brain that you've picked up that's made you successful, and it always really intrigues me to dig in there and see if there's anything I can take out of that. But before we get into that, just do a quick introduction to yourself and your brand.
Yeah, so like you said, I'm Parker McDonald. I live here in northern Alabama, actually transplant here. I'm from far west Texas. I was raised in Midland, Texas, in the Permian Basin. And moved here to Alabama right out of high school. I moved here and started working in my career, which is church ministry. I'm a worship pastor at a church here in Alabama. I just oversee worship in the music portion of the church. It's a pretty large church. It's called Daystar Church here in North Alabama. We got 3 campuses, and so I oversee the music portion of everything. For those all of our campuses, and live here. And man, I'll be honest with you, for a little bit it was really tough to figure out how to hunt here. Being raised out in West Texas, I was raised pretty much hunting, leased land, big, huge, expensive deer leases. If anybody has any exposure to Texas hunting, it's kind of a rich man's sport out there. You can't really find a ton of public land and zero public land where I lived at. So that was kind of a foreign thing to me. And grew up hunting, but I loved it. I mean, my dad, he would save up all year so he could afford our deer lease, just because, I loved it so much. And it was really a good time for us to bond. And we did. I mean, he's, even to this day, actually yesterday, he killed his first kayak deer, which is
I've
cool.
seen those pictures, man. Freaking epic stuff right there.
It was cool. We had a good time. But yeah, we that's our thing. We always, me and Dad, he's my best friend, just because, I mean, really, we don't have to talk about this in depth, but as a dad now, I understand the sacrifices that he made to make that happen. And I'll never take that for granted. I hunt, you guys, we all hunt, and it takes us away from our families and stuff. But as soon as my kids are old enough, I'm going to be working hard to try to make sure I'm doing the same thing that my dad did for me. But so being raised out there, it's just, that's how I knew how to hunt, was in a shooting house, in a deer blind, looking at a corn feeder, watching deer. That's just pretty much all we did. And so I moved here and was exposed to the hunting club life, which is the same thing as a lease, but just a little bit different. A lot of times these hunting clubs can be super political, and most of the time they can be more pressured than a lot of the public land that you hunt. And But it's the same thing, sitting over a food plot in a deer blind, just pretty much waiting on a deer to come to you. And it was probably, I don't know, 5 years ago or so. It was about 5 years ago. I just got sick and tired of it, dude. I was just like, I'm not seeing deer. This obviously is not working. I can't afford a club that's gonna actually have good deer on it. I gotta figure something out. Like I can hunt public land and not see deer for free instead of paying $600 or $700 for this lease that I'm not seeing deer on. I can just do it for free. And so I just started doing it, man. I'd always kayak fished, and we'll talk about that a little more in depth, kind of my style. But I always done that, and I just decided to put it to use, put the kayak to use on public land. Started being successful, then started this kind of brand that I do now with a podcast and a YouTube channel called Southern Ground Hunting, just kind of highlighting all the stuff that I'm doing, and then talking to guys around the Southeast who are just some of the most knowledgeable people, deer hunters in this area. And man, it's just been so cool. It's been super cool to get to talk to those guys, and not only that, hear about people being successful from something that they learned either from me or some of our guests that we have on. And that's just been pretty neat. I'm sure you guys get to experience that same thing as well. That's one of the coolest parts, is just knowing that you're helping somebody. So yeah, that's pretty much in a nutshell kind of what I do, who I am, what I'm all about.
I don't know. There's been sometimes we get a guest on here who knows a whole bunch about killing big bucks, and we kind of take the selfish turn and like, hey, what would you do if you had this deer doing this? Because we can't seem to kill him.
I've done that. I do that specifically during turkey season. I'll get turkey hunters on, and I'm like, all right, so let's say you have a bird gobbling 200 yards, and I just basically just retell a story of a bird that I didn't kill.
Yeah.
What should I have done?
That's what we do.
Yeah.
That's what we do every episode.
But just going back to your brand, that's something that I listen to. I'm not Southern-based hunting at all. I just listen to your brand because I could tell that you're a solid guy. Your co-host is a solid guy. You know, he's taking his kids hunting. You're preparing for that stage. We're kind of in the same stage of life.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are good people, and you're having cool. Just like I said, I just listen to it because there's something I can pick up from the guys, whether they're hunting in the South or not. Like I said, but it's just super cool to hear how other people hunt. You know what I mean? Like a dude dragging a buck through a swamp. You know what I mean? And going in on a little canoe it's just radical stuff that we would never be able to do. You know what I mean? It's just interesting to hunt instead of, oh yeah, I was hunting a pinch point and blah, blah, blah. You know, the regular stuff we hear here. So I wanted to have you on, and we've been playing it for a while, but it seems like you don't want to bother a guy in season because you know he's trying to podcast and hunt and got stuff going on. So I figured now I'm like, all right, maybe he's got a free moment now when stuff's kind of settling down a little bit.
Sure. It's funny. I mean, that's just something about the South too. Like I had a really good season this year. I tagged out a little bit earlier than I normally do, but right now, I mean, it's the heat of the rut where I'm at. Like this is the time, pretty much from December the 5th about through I would say the 15th. Maybe you'll get some rut action up through Christmas. But it's like, this is our November in this part of Alabama. And I did a thing for Onyx last week. They kind of did a little interview about hunting the rut in the South. And I described it like this. If you look at a rut map of Alabama, it looks like a hurricane, like a really bad weather system going through the state, because there's just so many different colors of all the different ruts. Like you could be here in Alabama and you could hunt the rut from October all the way through March if the season were open. It's just so spread out. It's not like the rest of the country. And so you are correct. Like I have some free time right now because I'm tagged out and pretty much done for the season. But most years I'm this is my week, man.
You're
This is
ramping
where
up right now, huh? This
That's
is
Yeah,
your
this
crazy.
prime
is where
time.
I'm there.
This is when we're licking our wounds up here,
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to beg for to
Like,
find a buck.
This is his November 6th down there. Could you
Yeah.
imagine? Like, oh, yeah, I got all kinds of time to podcast on November 6th.
Yeah.
Like,
You're like, dude,
bro,
I'm barely getting
no
myself
way.
podcast, and I can't do nothing right now.
No. Crazy.
But yeah, that's just crazy that Alabama being as skinny as skinny as a state. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
not very. It's not like giant like Texas or something, and you can hunt the whole
Yeah.
entire months like that. So
And it just being like so sporadic, like you just hear the stories like, county to county is just totally different. And it's, odds and ends of how it plays out down there. It's random.
It is. I actually I have a buck here, like a European mount on my wall of a buck that I killed one year in February, on February the 10th, which is the last day of the season. I killed this buck, and he was as ruddy as a Kentucky deer in November. Like, he was chasing does all over the place. And that same season, I killed another buck. I guess it was a year ago today, actually, and December the 11th of that year. And that was probably, as the crow flies, maybe 30 miles away. And he was rutting, 2 months earlier. And it's just crazy, the state. There's been some like restocking efforts years and years ago where they brought in deer from the northern states, and so them mixed with some other strains of deer, it's just kind of created this like mutt of a rut.
nice. I
And
like that.
it's cool though. It's cool. You have a lot of time. Like, I got to hunt. I killed a great buck in Kentucky this year, and that was on November the 11th. So I guess a month ago today. And so I got to hunt the rut then. Then I got to hunt the rut here in Alabama. It's just super cool. You don't have to sacrifice. If you want to go, if a Southern guy wants to go on an out of state hunt in a big buck state, Ohio, Kentucky, Nebraska, whatever, one of the Midwest states or whatever, they can do that and not have to sacrifice their own rut here.
Yeah,
which is
that's
pretty neat.
super nice. Yeah, go up there and
I'm going to say, I think that would be better in this situation than us trying to go down south. You know what I mean? Because, like,
Yeah.
you're here hunting hard, and then you get your ass kicked or whatever, you don't get it done. Like, it's going to take a lot to go down
Yeah,
south. And,
yeah.
like, us going to Alabama right now is, like, probably not going to happen.
You just talked your wife into 16 straight days hunting here. You're like, all right, babe, I'm going to go to Alabama for a week. Be real.
Like, all right, the house will be fucking empty by the time you get home.
And statistically, you're going to come home empty-handed, because there's a reason why you don't hear about a whole lot of people traveling to Alabama to kill a deer. Like, it's just
Yeah, I hear
it's
zero
hard.
about Alabama. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it's not really a destination whitetail state. It's good, and I can hunt it well because I live here. I know how to hunt here. Because I live
Oklahoma
here.
is becoming like a pretty solid state.
Yeah, like Alabama, there's like a solid 160s 11 pointer, and then I don't hear nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there every once in a while you'll find a big buck that gets killed out here. And what I told you, a lot of in my area, a lot of the deer like that, the big 160s, there was a 200-inch deer that got shot with a muzzleloader probably 5 or 6 years ago off public land out here. And it's those Michigan strain, those northern strain of whitetails that they brought in, and their genetics have just stayed. And they say you can tell a lot of times by the antlers, like the color of the antlers. If they're like that really super dark color, a lot of times that's going to be the northern strain of whitetail. And then the deer that have like the more white antlers or lighter colored are going to be more of a native whitetail here. So there's a lot of theories on it. I mean, I can't tell you that that's 100%, but it seems to hold pretty true when you see one of those big giant bruisers get killed out here.
Yeah, I didn't even know that they ship deer down there. I didn't know that at all.
Yeah.
I want to say it was in like it was like a long time ago, like 50 years ago or something like that. It
Yeah,
was a long time ago.
the one thing that I had heard is that it just kind of did the whitetail landscape of the northern, just the northern part, and they try to get them down there, and then whatever
Yeah,
stuck has stuck.
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
I could see
But
the
you know, they say,
genetics holding out for a long time, if they just keep breeding and
Right.
keep
I
going and
mean,
going and going.
it takes a special breed to stay down there, and as warm as it is.
Hmm.
yeah, it's super warm. But they also say that Alabama has one of the highest deer densities in the country, which I mean, you can look it up in a lot of places. I don't know what the actual numbers are, but I've looked it up within this year before, and I mean Alabama's up there in deer density. The problem is that it's not. A lot of it is not. You're just not going to see them. So when I've been, hunting ag land in Kentucky, if a deer comes in with it, if there's a deer within, you know, 300, 400 yards, and you're hunting just a big open, river bottom where you can see for a long ways, or you're hunting a big field or something like that, you're going to see it. In Alabama, you could literally have a deer within 50 yards that you never even knew existed, because there's so much, it's so thick. A lot of the pines and stuff that we have here, the understory is so thick that you just can't see. And then like where I live, the terrain is so intense and so rugged that, I mean, a deer could be 50 yards away in a different drainage ditch that you can't see, and you'll never see it. So it's just, while the deer density is good, I mean, it's healthy. I would say our buck to doe ratio is probably a little jacked up, but the density is pretty solid in a lot of the state. It still makes it very hard to hunt, and the hunting pressure is super high. Like, we have a lot of hunters in the state too, which is typical of the South. The South has a lot of hunters.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
What is
it makes it tough.
what does your guys' rifle season look like down there?
Oh my God, dude, it's so long. Like, our rifle season where I hunt opened up. Well, the statewide opener for a rifle is like November the 15th, and it runs through February the 10th.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
So and then the bow season opens up October the 15th. And you
God,
can,
that's a long
I
time
would
for
say
rifle season.
it's a long rifle season. And for years out here, I mean, it just was changed within the decade. You could kill a buck and a doe per day in Alabama.
Wow. But I mean,
Yeah.
we got listeners in Georgia that, I mean, it opens up rifle
Yeah,
mid early October and goes a
forever.
long way.
Yeah.
A long
Yes.
way.
I think their rifle season ends. I used to live in Georgia. I lived in Georgia for about 2 years, and I want to say that it ends like sometime like January the 10th or 12th or something like that. I may be wrong about that, but it opens so early. It opens in October.
Yeah, so I mean, you got a month of solid bow hunting, and then after that, it's free for all.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
crazy.
So I mean,
The thing that we get that's pretty good is most of our WMAs out here are going to be bow only most of the time, and then they have like specific rifle hunt weeks. So you can't just hunt with a rifle all season long out there.
That
Now
probably eliminates a lot of the hunters too. I mean,
yeah.
guys are like, well, I'm
it
gonna go
does.
somewhere else where I can hunt with a rifle.
It does. So I actually had Zach Farrenbaugh and Aaron Warburton on the show from the Hunting Public, and they
Mhm.
came and hunted a WMA here a couple years ago. And one of the things that they said they were surprised about was that they came out when it was not a gun hunt. There was a gun hunt, I think, that had just happened, or it was just about to happen or something. I think it just happened out there. So they were super surprised that they're like, yeah, we pretty much had the place all to ourselves. And everybody always talks about how bad the hunting pressure is out here, and we had it all to ourselves. Well, but they also only saw like one buck. They didn't see very many deer on that trip at all, because the week that the rifle season actually, or the rifle hunt happened, that place got raped. Like there was just people everywhere. So yeah, you can get it to yourself, but if it's rifle season, there's a good chance it's going to take quite a while for the deer population to kind of go back to its normal patterns, a normal way, because man, these guys out here, they show no mercy when it comes to a rifle hunt on a WMA.
Yeah, that's
Um,
kind of funny that you say that. We had just kind of transitioned our cams back to public, and through both of our gun seasons, one is 3 days, one is 4 days. Got muzzleloader coming up, so we're trying to see what's out there still alive, and um, it gets hit pretty hard, and we're just out there trying to see what's still alive and trying to make it through late season, but um,
Definitely not as good as it
yeah,
was.
definitely not as good as it was, and we need some cold weather, some super cold. It's been 40 to 50 here. We need 15 to 25 to really see if where we put these cams is going to hold true to where we can hunt.
well, and one cool thing about living here is, if I were in that same situation, there, depending on where you go, there's really not a late season. Like you can travel to a different part of the state and not have to deal with late season. Like I could go to South Alabama here, from Christmas till the end of the season and experience a pretty good rut down there.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So you don't really have to worry about that. Now where I hunt, I'll tell you this, like if you're gonna kind of pigeonhole yourself into one area, I hunt big woods, mountain terrain, um, and once the rut's over, the freaking deer just disappear. Like they're nowhere to be found. You're not gonna find another buck. More than likely. I mean, you might luck into one or whatever, but there's really no way to pattern them. They don't do anything normal. It's like they just crawl into a hole and you never see them again for the rest of the season. Um, and that's difficult. Like if you're going to hunt the big woods here in Alabama, by the rut, you better be done. Or before the rut's over, you better be done, because once it's over, it just freaking shuts off like nothing else. It's crazy.
Yeah, I could see
Yeah.
with you getting no cold weather that once they're done, they're pretty much nocturnal and going back to. There's a lot of people out here. I'm just gonna hide out.
Yeah.
I ain't got to get up because
Well,
it ain't cold. You know what I mean?
And I also feel like
and
there's a lot of people here that think the same way, but they might not have access to the food or to where, the deer are, period. So,
right, and what you said about food is the biggest thing. So during the early season and in archery season here, you can find deer because you've got green stuff. You can find their food sources. They got acorns on the ground, so you can find that food source, which is huge. And then you have the rut right after that. Once that's over, once the rut's over, acorns are pretty much gone. If you don't have access to some type of food source, even here in Alabama, it's legal to bait. You can hunt over a corn pile. If I were going to be hunting late season here in the South, I would make sure that I have some type of crop or a pile of corn of yellow acorns out there that I can hunt, because that's where the deer are going to be at, because they're looking for those easy food sources during that time of the season. I wouldn't give a corn pile probably at the time of day any other time during the season if I'm going out and trying to kill a buck. But during the late season, I mean, that might be your only hope to find a deer, is by hunting over a bait pile, or if you've got some type of food plot, or standing corn or soybeans or something like that, which we don't have a lot of. There's none of that on the public pieces that I hunt. So because it's just all big woods, that's part of the reason why they're gone. I mean, these deer are all leaving and going to the private land where they've got corn piles and food plots and stuff like that. And that's my theory anyways. I don't know that it would hold up in court, but it's my theory.
Oh yeah, I could definitely agree with that. That we have pieces like that even here. Is once the crops are picked out, they just vacate and they go south
Yeah.
where there's, they're either not chisel plowing their fields or there's a lot more timber, and so I could see down there those deer might travel a very long way late season. Where here, like they're traveling 2 or 3 miles. Down there they might travel 5, 6, 7 miles to get to somewhere where there's ag. And if there's nothing there, they're gonna leave. And just like here, we see like after Christmas, a lot of guys give up, and where there is standing ag, there's a lot of deer on it, and they start daylighting again. And you get cold weather, and you got 2 weeks where you can be like, okay, I can get after these deer. The last 2 weeks of season because everybody's done, no one's thinking about deer hunting. And then those deer already had, a month, of a break, you know what I mean? And they're back to, I got to get on some food. And then I've had pretty good success late season on public land.
I feel like most guys are like, okay, I'll give it till Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give it till Christmas. After Christmas, I'm gone.
That's the very few guys. I feel like
second
gun.
It's very few. Yeah, after second gun, you are just
there's very few guys
wrecked
out there. Yeah, you've already. If you hunt, even hunt hard, you've put
you got guys who be like, well, I'll give it till Christmas, and then after that,
I'm out there the last day. I gotta set the last day. I've set the last day since I can remember. I have to set the last day because I'm just like I cannot set. I can't do this for so long. I'm setting the last day. I don't care if it's on a Thursday. You gotta set the last day, even if you're out there for 2 hours in the evening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that you guys have going for you is a lot of the northern and midwestern states have a pretty conservative buck tag system or whatever. And ours is not in a lot of the state or a lot of the southeast really. Here in Alabama, like I said, you used to be able to kill a buck and a doe a day. You can still in a lot of the zones here, you can still kill a doe every day. And statewide, you can kill a doe with a bow every day or with archery equipment. But we only get 3 buck tags now, which is super liberal still. I mean, when you think about the rest of the country, a lot of these states only get 1 or 2, and they'll spread them out. Like I hunted Missouri this year, and you get I think you get like your 2 buck tags, but only one of the bucks can be killed before like November or something. It's just like it's a little bit confusing, but y'all have different seasons where you can buy different tags in a lot of the northern and midwestern states, where ours is just like if I wanted to kill all 3 of my bucks on back-to-back days, I could do that. But people don't. I mean, you kill 1 buck, and I'm guilty of this myself, but a lot of the mentality is, I get 3 buck tags, so I'll have a burner tag where I can, my first buck of the year, I might shoot, a smaller deer or whatever.
Yeah.
And so,
sure.
That kind of changes things. I think in states like Kentucky, for example, that's where most of my out-of-state hunting is taking place, is in Kentucky. And you get 1 buck tag, so you're a lot less likely to kill a small buck if you've got only 1 tag. Especially as a resident there,
Yeah, and you imagine someone killing that velvet season in Kentucky and you get 1 tag. You're done for the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
God.
That would suck.
Yeah, that would suck.
I hate that.
Yeah. You'd have to go out of state just because you'd be like, man, I can't hunt like at all. Like, I mean, that'd be terrible. So, yeah, we're a 2 buck state here, so I do the same thing. I'll shoot a solid buck, first buck, and then the second tag, I'm always after something, giant, legendary, huge. And I've done that for the past like 6 or 7 years, you know what I mean? So, but can you kill 3 bucks with a rifle there?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You can kill all with a rifle, all with a bow. It doesn't matter.
He said, "Oh yeah."
Oh yeah.
oh boy.
Well,
man,
it's
pretty intense.
Yeah, that's insane, man. 3 with the rifle. It'd be really hard not to go kill 3 bucks. You would hunt until you had 3 bucks down.
Right.
If we could kill 3 bucks here, you'd be like, I got $2. I'm gonna go out and give her a shot with the old
Holy
rifle. You
shit.
know what I mean? So,
If you're
but
looking for
Well,
an absolute just
I will
let's
say for most people here, it's really hard to kill $3 with a rifle. Um, and that's one of the like for me, I'm just used to this. I'm used to that. You get $3 or whatever. I know it seems a little bit foreign to a lot of other states, and being able to do all that with a rifle, but like still, even here in Alabama, where our bag limit is pretty liberal, it's still not easy. Like it's not easy. I have friends that live in Missouri and stuff, and I've hunted a lot of these states where if I could hunt with a rifle, I mean, you'd kill a dang freaking booner every year. It's just not the case here in Alabama. Like we just don't have it's a lot harder. Like I said before, it's a lot harder to hunt, and most people are not willing to go out and do kind of the work that it takes to go out and find them, especially on public. On private, things could be a little bit different, but in my experience, I don't know very many people that tag out here in Alabama, even on private land.
it'd
I
be
just don't
tough
know.
to tag out if you're trying to kill
Yeah.
solid bucks.
right.
Finding one solid buck even here and getting on them and killing them is tough. You know what I mean? Let alone doing it 3 times. So
Yeah, just because like 3 deer, you're hurting your chances for next year.
yeah,
Like at some
if you're on
point,
private ground,
you're gonna be like hindering that.
like I killed 3 solid bucks this year. That's a lot
Yeah.
less.
Okay. Yeah.
$3
Okay. Next year, what am I gonna expect?
Yeah,
Probably not
Yeah.
that.
yeah. So you do a lot of kayak hunting, and that's something that we think is pretty awesome. The videos and pictures are sweet, and just go ahead and go into the reason why you started doing that and why you think that's made you more successful.
Yeah, so the story of how I actually got into it was kind of funny. Like I said earlier, it was when I first made the decision to hunt public land, I was kind of like, well, I could go and not see deer for free on public. And then it just kind of was a random occurrence. I bought an SUV. I'd always driven a truck, bought an SUV, and it was during the summer, and I didn't have any way to get my kayak to the water to fish, to bass fish. That's what I was really trying to do. And so I was like, well, I'll just go out and buy this trailer. So I bought like this big freaking ski boat trailer for $100 from a guy. I just saw it sitting on his yard. And I was like, that'll work, $100. But I had this little bitty tiny kayak on this giant trailer. And so my mind just started working. Like I like to DIY a lot of stuff, especially with kayaks. And my mind just started working. I was like, I could put like a rack here. I could put a toolbox right here and basically just make a trailer that also works as my kayak trailer. And then I was like, I could put like a rack, like one of the trailer hitch, little bucket racks that you can put on there. It's like I could put that right there to haul stuff. And then I started thinking, I was like, I could haul deer on that. I was like, man, maybe I could public land hunt with my kayak and use this awesome trailer that I'm building to like it'd be just like super cool. And so I got Onyx. I literally bought Onyx that day, and I started looking up some of the public land around me, and I was like, I could hunt that with a kayak. That shows up as public. I can hunt that with a kayak. And then it just was freaking. It spiraled from there. It was like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. I'm not getting on a hunting club. I'm not spending any money doing that. And the first day of the season, I saw deer, and I was just jacked out of my mind. I was like, I freaking saw a deer on public land the first day of the season using this kayak. And so I just kept doing it and eventually killed my first deer and paddled it out. Probably 3 weeks into the season, I killed a doe and paddled it out. And dude, I'm telling you, from then, that experience of it's not anything crazy, I mean, most people have some way of transporting a deer from the field to their truck, and for most people it's a four-wheeler or side by side, and they don't really think anything of that. But when you put it on the kayak and you've got this, you're just surrounded by water, and you're just out there by yourself, it's just magical. Like I can't describe it. And some people might do it and be like, yeah, that was stupid, that didn't really do anything for me. But for me, it freaking lit me up, man. I was so fired up.
What if there's
And
something like primal with like a canoe?
I'm
Like way
yeah,
back in our ancestors where we would throw our, what we killed in a canoe and paddle it back home. So just like hunting in general, like gets that primal instinct, or like stalking something. I don't care if it's a rabbit
right.
or like your cat and you're trying to sneak up on it. When you're stalking something, there's something primal
Oh
going
yeah. Oh
on.
yeah. 100%.
If you're trying to scare your wife in the bathroom and you're like sneaking up, there's something that's going on in your brain that's like, and I wonder if that's what happens when you throw something at a boat. It's just like some
yeah,
primal instinct that you're like, this is what your ancestor did, and it just puts something in your brain that releases endorphins like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
yeah. There's that, and then there's like there's the accomplishment. Like there's the things that you don't think about when you think about kayak hunting or just hunting by water access in the first place. One of them is like fog and being out there in the dark, and like
Ooh,
when
yeah,
you're going in early in the morning, it's
that'd be
foggy.
rough as shit. I never thought about
Like,
kayaking
all
in
right,
the
we're getting
dark.
close. Foggy.
Be like, where the hell am I at right
Dude,
now?
it's that accomplishment. Like for a lot of guys, you're getting out of your truck and you're walking a mile or whatever on public, and that's cool. Like I'm all about it. That's a fun way to hunt too. But it adds another aspect whenever you're having to paddle in the dark. There's nobody around, and it's also it's like an adrenaline rush too, because it's dangerous every time you go out there. If you fall in the water and it's 30 degrees outside, you fall in, your boots fill up with water. Um, you better be wearing a life jacket. And if you're doing it right, there shouldn't be anybody really around to hear you scream if you fall in. And so there's that aspect. It's kind of scary every time you do it. And that first season, man, when I was doing it, it was just like, okay, chill out, Parker. Like just take a breath, relax. Like don't freak out. You're okay. There's nothing going to get you. And then while you're out there and it's foggy and you can't see anything, and the moon is like, you can see the moon shining, and it's just kind of spooky, and you instantly start thinking about every scary movie you've ever
There's a
watched.
shark in this river, I guarantee it.
Yeah. There's no other time that you ever believe in the Loch Ness monster, and then all of a sudden, you're out there by yourself. You're like, what if it's real?
Yeah, for sure.
So there's just a lot of mental things with it.
If
And
you
so
walk into the woods at night with a flashlight and you don't turn around and do one check on the way to your stand, there's something wrong with you. I'm telling
You're
you.
ready to be dead.
Yeah, there's something. You got to make sure
But
nothing's following you. Just
it's like that, all of that added together when you finally make it happen and you're paddling out of the woods with a deer in your kayak with you, or your canoe or whatever. Like it just all kind of just comes together that moment, where you're just like, holy cow, this is awesome. And actually that first season was the first year, that first season of hunting 100% public land was the first year that I ever tagged out in Alabama. And I tagged out December. That was the year. Yeah, that was December the 13th, I think, is when I tagged out that year, and tagged out with a really good 8-point that I got here on the wall. And for my first year of doing it, I wasn't picky about anything. I was like, I'll shoot whatever. I'm just trying to kill deer on public. That's my goal. And so I shot 2 small bucks. I shot two or 3 does and then 3 bucks. And that was that season. And that was when I was just like, man, I don't think I'm ever going to want to hunt any other way. Like there's so much excitement that happens in this style of hunting. Like I don't think I want to hunt any other way. And so the other aspect of it is that I'm getting away from the pressure that I was telling you about, especially on national forest land, where I spend most of my time. And national forest land, you can hunt pretty much, it's statewide season. So I can hunt with a rifle from the time rifle season opens till the time it's over. It doesn't work the same way as a WMA does. So it's statewide laws. I can hunt with a rifle whenever I want. I can hunt with a bow whenever I want. I don't have nearly the rules and regulations that I have on a WMA. And so once I started, putting a lot of this stuff together and kind of developing my hunting style, I was also getting away from pretty much anybody. That was 5 years ago, and I have never. Let me think about this. In my home area, I have never had anybody walk in on me. Not one time. I've never had a flashlight show up. Never had somebody come in on me. I mean, I've had it pretty much all to myself because I'm getting away from everybody and I'm doing more work that a lot of people, for whatever reason, just aren't willing to do. So that part's been super cool. A lot of the horror stories that you hear about public land, I just don't really have to deal with because I just put a little bit more effort into it, and it's just never been an issue that I've ever had.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. Like, Cody and I feel really confident in setting up in places that we feel like we've eliminated 90% of the people that are going to be out there hunting. And I will say this year we did have um, more hunter encounters than, normal, but when you break down and you talk to that guy at the truck or, after the hunt or through text message or however it may be, you find out that that guy is trying to eliminate 90% of the hunters himself. And, you two have just run into each other along the process. And um, to, to, to run into a guy that's, out there trying to do the same as you is actually pretty cool in my mind because, you guys have the same drive to be successful. And usually, you guys is whatever you guys are going to shoot is going to be on the same line as, the other one. And it's pretty cool to just be out there with another sportsman and to maybe see what he's doing. And like we've done so many times is, learn from that other guy or get in communication and, learn from each other about a specific deer or just how the deer are moving throughout the area.
Yeah, so we do that here too. Like there's a few guys that hunt like I hunt out here, and a lot of them use boats and stuff. And I've run into a few of them, just at the launches and stuff. And we pretty well have a good networking system. Like every one of us has a lot of respect for each other because we all know what it takes to hunt. Not only are you doing this, like not only are you hunting via water, you're also hunting mountains via water. So pretty much, I mean, you have the work that it takes to, get your boat out and, paddle or, boat in the foggy water or whatever at dark. You have all that, but then you also have the terrain that you have to deal with to get to your actual spots. And, lakes and water systems are usually going to be at the lowest elevation. So to get out of the water, you're going to be going straight up to get to anywhere that's worth hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all have a really good high respect level for each other. We know what it takes. Sometimes we'll have a new guy that shows up and you're like, who the heck is this? And it takes a little while, but it's one of those deals where for us, we really kind of treat it like a hunting club sort of, or a lease. This is just our big, several thousand acre lease that we have all to ourselves. And if one guy shows up and he's like trying to get all this information and he may come out there like one or two times, like we're going to be like, nah, like we're not going to make it easy for him regardless, but
Right.
if somebody like there's a new guy that showed up this year at one of the launches and he's a super nice kid. And he's young. He's not been hunting for a very long time, but the dude has put in some freaking effort. And so at first, I was kind of like, just kind of stand back and wait and run into him a couple times. And he's nice enough, dude. Actually knew who I was. I think he actually figured out where I was hunting at from watching some of my videos. And that's fine. I mean, it's a risk I take, I guess. But started showing up, and I talked to him again the other day, and it was kind of one of those deals where, like, that was the moment where I was like, all right, dude, well, let me get your number. We'll share some information and, help each other out, And so that's I do run into people at the launches and stuff, but never at the ranch or in the woods, because they're all of us are really trying to help each other. We all have, like you said, we all have the same mindset. Like, we're there to get away from people, and so that's just kind of the way we've treated it.
Yeah, I would classify your guys' launches as kind of Cody and I like starting to bike in to our spot. We got to bike in a mile, regardless. I mean, to get to any timber that is good, you got to bike in a mile, and then you got to hike almost a mile. So, um, at the end of the hunts, we're back at the truck, and over the last couple of years, we've kind of struck a good friendship with a couple guys, and just I think everybody's being pretty truthful at the truck about what they're seeing and stuff. And if we have a slow hunt, I think pretty much everybody else is having a slow hunt. And if we have a
Everybody
good
knows
hunt,
how shitty that biking is.
oh yeah, it's
Just like the paddling for a kayak. They're
Yeah,
like,
just
they're
like-
like, this dude just did all the crap that I did to get back in there.
exactly. Like, I'm gonna tell
Yeah.
this guy, like,
Yeah,
hey,
I
it was
seen-
bullshit back
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Like,
you know what I mean? It was-
I
it
had
was
bullshit. You probably had bullshit.
Yeah, so I feel like there's like a level of respect that you give the guy just because you know
Yeah.
what he's done to be successful.
Exactly, just like Park was talking about with the launch, and like this
Yeah.
guy's paddling back there in the dark in the foggy ass water.
Yeah.
So
you already like they
if you
already
get
got
back to
street
the
cred.
tr-
You know what
yeah,
I mean?
if you get back to the truck at the
Yeah.
same time, like, hey, bro, how'd it go? Like,
Yeah.
I just seen you paddle in a mile.
I
Yeah.
mean, like, this is my people.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you.
This is the guys that you want your families to get together at the barbecue, so you can actually sit around and talk about the kind of hunting you want to talk about.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I mean,
I don't want to talk to the guy that's like, oh, you killed a deer? Well, check out this deer I killed. I've been watching him for 5 years, coming in my feeder, and blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, okay, that's cool. I'm happy for that. I like doing that too. If I had the money and the resources, crap, I might do that myself. But at this point, that's not really we're not gonna have a lot in common.
Yeah.
yeah.
We're not gonna share a lot of the same I guess stories, and like where my deer may have been 100-inch 8-point and his deer might have been 150-inch 12-point.
The appreciation is going to be a little different.
Yes, exactly. I just, and that's not to say anything about any style of hunting. I believe that, a guy who hunts on a high fence, for example, some hard work happens somewhere to make that high fence possible, right? I mean, high fence operations are not cheap. Somebody worked their tail off to get the money that it took to buy that property, and blah, blah, blah. That I can appreciate that. For me, my 100-inch, 115-inch 8-point that I kill, I worked my butt off in that moment to go and find him. Nobody managed him. I wasn't feeding him. I wasn't doing any of that stuff. I went and I figured it out how to do it.
Mhm.
It's a different game, but it's within the same sport, and we can all learn to get along, whether or not you agree with high fence hunting or whatever, or creating goofy racked genetics that score 450 inches or whatever you want to do. You have to understand that hard work happens somewhere to get to that point, and for that I can respect any of it. I can because hard work deserves respect, in my opinion. And while I may not care for the style of hunting or the way that they hunt, or it may not relate to me, I can still appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. That's always the private, public. Well, I planted food plots and I, followed this deer for 3 years and I put X amount of hunts in on him and hasn't spooked him. And, there's a lot of hard work there, but there's also the hard work the guy had no pictures of a buck and he went into public and killed him. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's work everywhere, just different types of work, you know what I mean? And,
Mm-hmm.
but I do believe that public land deer are kind of a different creature than private land deer just because they encounter so many more people. And I think it's like just like us. If you talk to someone from the country They're a little bit more laid back. You know, if you talk to someone from the city, they're kind of edgy, faster. It's just genetics, you know what I mean? It's just
Mhm.
bred into you over time. And I feel like on public land, it's just the genetics are to be a little bit more edgy of a deer, you know what I mean? To be a little bit
Yeah.
more cautious, a little bit more skeptical of
I would say it
movement.
is like a 10 to 15% increase in like senses. Like,
Yeah.
oh shit,
Yeah, I
okay, all
mean, it's
right.
just genetic, you know what I mean? Just over time, those does, you know, learn and then they breed and they have does and they have does and they have, you know, it just over time this shit just gets smarter and smarter and
That
smarter out there.
nobody's killing.
Yeah, no one, you know, when you go that deep, you know, in a kayak and stuff, there's probably very like around here, nobody kills does where we hunt. Nobody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So those does are 8, 9 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're
Yeah.
giant,
They've seen
old
it all.
does. You know what I mean? And it's hard to fool those does. You can get them by a couple of times, but then they see you in the tree. You might as well leave that tree because the next time they come through there, you're screwed. You know what I mean? They
They're looking
got
at you
you.
from 150 yards.
Yeah, they're like, yep, he's in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. The deer out here in a lot of the more pressured areas, they come out with their head up, looking
Yeah.
to see if there's somebody there. It's
Blows me
just,
away. And then we go to our private ground. We got a little bitty piece of private we can hunt. Homie cut down a tree limb, and there was a 2.5-year-old buck eating the bush, eating the leaves off the branch he just cut down 3 foot in front of the tree.
Literally 6 foot from the actual cut.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was like, what is going? We just hunted on private or public for like 10 days. Then
Yeah.
we went to private. We were like, what is going on right now?
And you see the deer stand up 120 yards away, come across the creek through the timber draw,
Yeah,
right out into the green field, feeds
like-
up right to a scrape.
we're like 15
and
foot
then,
high.
and
You're like,
then he hits the tree limb.
yeah. Then
like,
he's
okay,
eating
all right.
the bush. You're like, all right.
Like, all right, up to this point, I was okay. After he eats that,
Yeah.
3 foot away from where my hand was on the cut,
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know
a
what to
different
say.
breed of animal.
I have no idea what to say.
Out there, you see a spike buck and he blows at you.
Yeah.
You're like, what is going
Spike,
on?
can't
right
even get
now?
within 100 yards of a spike bug, bro.
You're like, what's going on right now? Oh. But yeah, I mean, kayaking in, that's something we talked about doing, but there's just not a lot of public around here with water. It's just not, and
What if you floated down the river in a kayak? Would that be hunting?
I don't know if it's legal in Illinois if you shoot out of a kayak.
so
I know you can't shoot a deer in the water. Could you shoot out of the
I don't know. You have to look the regulations.
There's some states that will allow it. So here in Alabama, you can actually shoot from your boat as long as it is not in like forward motion or something like that. It's like it can't be in forward motion, and if it has a motor on it, it has to be shut off. So it can't be in use. So I mean, you would kind of use your duck hunting regulations, I would think. So if you're allowed to hunt ducks from a boat, like you probably cannot hunt them with the motor running. But a lot of people hunt ducks from a boat. There's really, I mean, and in that case, you're shooting up in the air. It's like, it's a little more dangerous to me. If you're going to go as far as safety. But this year, I actually shot a turkey this past spring out of my kayak on accident. I wasn't like hunting from my kayak on purpose. I'd been working these birds all morning long in this big open field that was public, and they crossed into a small little strip of private land. So I got back in my boat and I paddled the creek out to the main river and then went to another creek that came off of the river, basically trying to cut these turkeys off. And there were 2 toms in the group and then a crap ton of hens. So when I got to that other creek, I could actually see the field that they crossed over into. And they were standing in it like 50 yards away from me as I'm floating down this creek. I was like, crap. And so I floated. I just kept floating. They kind of looked at me, and I just ducked down and just let myself float all the way to where I wanted to go. And so my plan was to float past them about 100 yards, not spook them or anything, and hit the tree line, get in the woods, and just try to call them in from the woods. Well, when I got to the woods, everything was underwater. Like a week before, it was not underwater, and now all of a sudden, everything had like 5 feet of water in it, of standing water. So it was basically just a swamp. And so I was like, crap. So I just got my kayak and like just kind of kayaked through the woods through this water and ended up on the field that they were at. And the water actually went halfway into this field. Um, so the turkeys were already gone. Like I'd made kind of a lot of racket getting through the woods because there was a bunch of briars. It wasn't a swamp all the time. It was just when the water got to the certain level. And so there was a lot of briars and like brush and stuff that I was getting hung up on. So I made kind of a lot of racket getting through it. But I figured they wouldn't go far. And so basically what I did, I got my camera netting, the netting that I use for my camera to kind of make it a little blind, and put it all on the front of my boat. I hung a GoPro up. I turned on my camera, my GoPro on my gun barrel, and I let out a short little yelp, and the turkeys gobbled just right off the field. And I just sat there in my little ground blind kayak right on the wood line and shot a bird. I called him into the field and shot him right there from the boat. And
Oh, dude,
Epic stuff.
that is sick.
it was pretty legit. Like I've had some really cool hunts uh, based around the kayak, kind of, like that. But that one was up there as far as like uniqueness and being able to get it all on camera as good as I could. Like I said, I didn't have my main camera out because I was in the water and I didn't want to knock it into the water or anything. But I did have my GoPros and stuff, and so that was a pretty sweet hunt. I'm gonna send you this picture while we're talking about it. I'm gonna send you this picture. So I took a really sweet picture of it where you can see my boat. My kayak is in the middle of this field where I killed the bird at, because I could paddle it halfway through the field, which is pretty sweet.
That is sweet.
But yeah, it's definitely added a lot of creativity to the way that I hunt. But also getting back into those places where a lot of these deer, like you said, when you can get back in deep, they're not nearly as pressured. And so these deer they have not. I've hunted it now for 5 years like this, and a lot of these spots are spots that I go to often. Where I killed my buck at last week, it's a spot that I've never hunted, but it was also 4.9 miles away from the boat launch. And I did that in the morning. So there's not a lot of people getting back there.
That is insane.
Yeah, it took a good hour and a half, and I have a little motor on my kayak too. And even with that, you can't, like, even if you have like a 40 horse motor or something, like, you cannot go fast in foggy water. You just can't. Like, people think that they could, you can't.
No, you can't.
If you can't see 5 feet in front of you, then it's hard to navigate in the dark water. So I just took it slow, and it was definitely daylight by the time I got set up. But that spot's not been hunted. Golly, I don't know when the last time it got hunted was, because I'm not hunting it. I can imagine nobody else is.
Yeah. Very few people, if anybody, are going. I mean, 5
Right.
miles
And
is a long ways.
that day, this is the first time I've hunted it. That day, I had a hot doe come through that morning, and missed an opportunity at the biggest buck I've seen in the woods, like on the hoof. It was so big. And I was hunting with my rifle. It was actually the first day I'd taken out my rifle for the season, and I had the buck. This hot doe came through, and I knew she was hot, man. Like, I was just being an idiot. It was just a stupid mistake on my part. And this doe came through, and so I got my camera, and I'm like watching this doe, and she walked by me at like 10 yards, and her tail was up. She was trotting, and I knew that she was hot. Like, I knew there was a buck behind her the way that she was acting, and my dumb butt was just filming her and not paying any attention. So she gets behind me, walks from in front of me all the way behind me, catches my walk-in scent, and like jolts and starts running back the way that she came. And as I'm watching her run back, as she gets in front of me, 50 yards standing right there is the biggest buck that I've ever seen in the woods. And he moves his head, sees her runs, and hightails it out of there. And he was probably standing right there in front of me at 50 yards for 30 seconds. And I'm sitting there with a 30-06, more than capable of killing him right there. And I just screwed it up. I was so mad. And I had a trail camera that I had hung up there at the beginning of November, and I wanted to know what was back there. So I took that trip one afternoon just to hang that trail camera, and he actually walked by it chasing her that morning 30 seconds before he came to me. And when I checked it, I could get a good look at him, and he was just a toad, man, just absolutely huge.
Damn it.
And so I missed that opportunity, but I ended up being able to kill this other buck about 30 minutes later. He came, and I figured it would probably happen with a hot doe that early in the rut. I figured a hot doe would bring another buck by me. But, I mean, that's just a good example of the type of spots that I'm being able to find and get into. My first sit going in there, I saw the biggest buck I've ever seen and ended up killing a great buck, after that. And it's just, most guys in Alabama are not having that type of experience for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you're killing, great bucks for even guys up here, you know what I mean? You're doing it on a consistent basis down there. So I knew that there had to be something to it. And it sounds like you're just doing kind of what we talked to Dan Infault, just going where people aren't going, you know what I mean? And that's where these bucks are going to daylight, you know what I mean? Seems super simple, but it's really hard to find that spot, you know what I mean? But with a kayak and with that much ground, I think you can.
I feel like, especially with a kayak, if you can get back there away from the people, you just eliminated all the people that we would say, aren't going to cross the ravine.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like if you can do at least that work, it's going to improve your odds.
Yeah, he's going 5 miles deep.
Yeah,
5 miles is a long ways, you know what I mean?
Way out there.
Yeah, that's way out there, so.
Yeah, and there's a couple things, that I think are important. Like I scout and I cyber scout more than anything. I Onyx scout a lot because I know what I'm looking for. But there's some aspects that you really got to start looking at if somebody's going to start doing this. You have to make sure you're going into a place that nobody can walk to from any public road. I won't waste my time. If I know that there's a road within a mile of a spot, I'm just not going to go there. I'm not going to waste my time there. I might be missing out on some deer, but I have plenty of land that I have yet to step foot on, that I've got in the back of my mind, that is not accessible by anybody unless they have access to the private land that it borders. So I'm finding these landlocked / waterlogged places that are just out there. They're public and anybody can go to them, but there's no way to get to them other than by water. That's the only way to get to them. And so almost every spot that I'm hunting does not have any public road. I've got a couple of spots. I've got one spot in specific, one area that there is a walk-in trail. It's actually where my dad killed the buck yesterday. And I call this area Kill Hill because I have killed 6 bucks off of this hillside in the last 5 years. So almost every year I see a deer die on that, whether it's me or my dad. And Dad's now killed 2. So there's been 7 killed. I've killed 5 and he's killed 2. So there's been 7 killed in this same hillside. And there is a trail to get to it, but there's a big giant like ditch with a bluff, which is basically a cliff drop off. So people can't get there to this spot from the walk-in area. And then there's another spot where there's a private, like gated neighborhood where people can't, it's not public access. So if somebody lives in that neighborhood, they could hunt this area But if they don't live in that neighborhood, they can't get into the neighborhood to be able to access it. So I still continue to see deer there. It gets very little pressure, and that's probably as far as deer, like I can always depend on that spot to see deer, and it's super cool. And then, but most of my spots have nothing. I mean, they're just little tiny, 40 acres to 100-acre spots, little chunks of public, and you hear about it out west, like you've got. In Wyoming, you've got a bunch of landlocked pieces that nobody can get to. So the private land just uses it like it's their own. And that's the places that I'm keying in on. That's the places where I'm hunting. And honestly, in the time that I've hunted, I've never had somebody walk up to me. I've never seen not a ton of sign of people. My hunting style is a little bit different from the average guy. So I'm looking for very specific terrain features, vegetation features, and that really separates me even from the guys that are hunting by boat, that are using the same areas. They may be in the same vicinity at some point, but they're not hunting the same spots most of the time because I'm looking for something really specific. And that's worked, man. Like it worked quick this year. This year, I mean, it felt like every time I walked in the woods, I was seeing what I wanted to see. I was seeing something I would be happy enough shooting. So I'm still kind of developing, the style and the system, and we'll see next year if it works out the same way. But man, this year it absolutely just crushed. It was so much fun. It was
Yeah, you
quick.
definitely got her going, got her down. That's why I wanted to talk to you about it and kind of. I know there's some other guys that maybe can utilize this and think about how they might be able to access something different by water. And I feel like a lot of people talk about doing it, but not a lot of people do it. You know what I mean? And maybe they do it once or twice, and it's just a lot of work. You know what I mean? You got to wake up earlier. You're going to have to pack a trailer. You have to figure out how to haul all your stuff on this. And if you do flip, you're not only getting wet, you're losing your bow. All your camo's wet. Your backpack, if you got filming gear, all that's gone. There's a lot of risk for reward there, you know what I mean? So you got to get a good system down and understand what you're doing. But if you can, like you, definitely can lead to success because you're proving it every year, getting in there and killing these giant bucks where giant bucks aren't supposed to be.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. The system is everything. When you are doing something that has a lot of moving parts, you've got to have a system. So I tell this to new guys, new saddle hunters, especially when guys first get into a tree saddle. It seems like there's ropes everywhere, and you just got so many moving parts, and it's hard to get a system down. So people are like, "Man, this stuff is so frustrating. There's so much stuff." Well, try doing saddle hunting with self-filming and kayak access. Like you have to have everything down by muscle memory. Like you just have to know this is how I'm doing it. And it takes a lot of practice, takes a lot of time. Man, if my system's thrown off even a little bit, it screws me up. Like when I walk in, like some out-of-state hunts that I do where I don't use a kayak and I just do walk in, I have locked my keys in my vehicle so many times because my system is just thrown off. And like, it sounds really stupid, but everything that I've been used to doing is all of a sudden different because I'm not using a kayak anymore. So I just forget my keys in my truck and I can't explain it. It's just, it's happened way too many times to just be a coincidence.
Yeah, if you forget your release 4.9 miles, I mean, you're not like, shit, gonna turn around, gonna save the day, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So. I mean, so you have to have a system from basically the time you wake up, which I wake up the day that I was telling you about where I went in 4.9. That day I woke up at 2:00 in the morning. So when you wake up at 2, you pretty much have to know exactly what the rest of your morning is going to look like. Like you can't leave a lot of room for guessing. Like I'm going to do this. I'm going to get up, make sure I have all this in order. And you lay it like everything has to be a system. And I am the most unsystems person in my job. I am not.
I don't know about that, man. You never met me, bro.
I'm saying I'm dirty. My truck is a mess. My office that I'm in right now is a mess. Like, I'm so unorganized. But
Me and
when
you
it
would get
comes to
along
deer
real
hunting,
good, brother.
yeah.
I
But when
just,
it comes to deer
yeah.
hunting, I know what I'm looking for, and I know what I'm doing, and so I'm just a little more organized.
Yeah, I just feel like, is this a priority? No. Okay.
All
Then
right,
I ain't
hit
gotta
the
do
shit.
it.
Hit
Yeah.
the back.
Yeah, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, is this a priority? Nope. I got a lot of other shit going on right
It's
now.
gone.
It's gone. I like to live on the edge.
I got deer to kill. Like,
Yes, exactly. I got deer to kill, kids to take care of, and I got to show up to work every now and then to get paid. That's what I got to do in life. That's it. That's all I
Yep.
got to do.
That's how
Yep.
I'm messing up.
Yeah.
That's how I'm messing up right here.
Yeah.
here.
Stop being so
I
organized,
know.
bro. Stop overthinking everything.
Messing up right
Yep.
here.
Your truck needs to look like mine.
It was there for a hot minute,
Yeah.
dude. It was bad.
My truck's a mess, but I know where everything is.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, it's right here. Just dig through the shit. You'll find it, bro. It's in there. It's in there somewhere. Well, man, we appreciate you coming on. We don't waste too much of your night going on here. It's 10 o'clock. We're after 10 o'clock now. So we appreciate you coming on, and let the listeners know where they can find your brand and where they can listen to your podcast.
Yeah, so I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been a blast. I love doing podcasts when I don't have to be the one hosting and I can just talk and not have to worry about anything. That's the best. So you can find the Southern Ground Hunting Podcast. We're part of the Sportsman's Nation Network, so you can obviously find it there on that feed on anywhere you find podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, any of that stuff. But you can also just search Southern Ground Hunting, and I have my own feed, my own specific feed where you can just get my stuff, and you can find it there. I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Southern Ground Hunting, and then on YouTube you just find Southern Ground Hunting, and that's where you'll find everything. I've actually, when you guys called me, I was working on this video of my last buck, and then I've got the video of the buck my dad killed yesterday. That is pretty dang good. It's probably going to be the best video you've ever seen of a spike. Spike was our victim, and so we made it work, dude. We got freaking drone footage. We got all kinds of stuff. We went all out for this spike, and it was really cool. But so we got a couple of videos that are coming. We may have some late season Tennessee stuff, but I've got probably 3 years worth of content on there now, so you can check it out on YouTube.
It's always fun to have another guest on, let him flow, feel his, get it out there, let him talk about, what he wants to talk about. Because on this show, he's trying to provide content for other people. And
Yeah.
this is what he loves doing, but all his listeners have probably, heard him talk about it just like us talk about the
I would
same
say it's
stuff
the same
over and
struggle
over.
we come into.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You got stuff you want to talk about, but you're like, how much do my listeners want to hear me talk about stuff?
Yeah,
It's
I
always
feel like when we go on different shows, we can spread our wings a little bit more and venture out. So,
yeah.
Definitely get out there.
We really appreciate Parker for coming on our show. If you guys haven't listened to his podcast, check it out. That's something that's, even if you are from the Midwest, you can definitely learn something from these Southern guys. And like I said, he's just a solid dude. He's doing the right thing with his family, prioritizing stuff. And even his, co-host, taking his kid out hunting, sharing a lot of stories about that. Really cool. So we really enjoyed him coming on, and he's definitely another guy that's trying to leave a legacy with his kids and always do the right thing, like we say. And there's still a little bit of season left, guys. If you got the effort, get out there and just enjoy a hunt. Whitetail Legacy's out.